Howdy guys, Treetop Piper back with you. Thank you for all the comments about the new pipe, by the way. Really am pretty excited about it. I'm glad that you guys are too. It is a beautiful pipe. Um, it is a beautiful pipe. It's got a few small fills here and there. 4, maybe 5 fills, something like that. It's got a few. They're small though, but just a great looking piece of briar here. And I am looking forward to breaking it in. I mean, and it's just so old. I can't believe this. This is, my both my grandfathers have passed away now, and this is older than, or, or this is basically how old they were. This pipe, and it's never been smoked, which is pretty fascinating. And this pipe as well, same thing, except this one is older actually. This is the one that I always do my first impressions in, as you guys know. And this is, I'm the original smoker. I'm the only smoker of this pipe. I'm the only guy that's ever smoked a tobacco out of it. And I like that. And it's a meerschaum, and that's why it's my first impression pipe. This is probably my, um, this is probably the pipe that I would say is my, um, this is like my connection to tobacco. This is how I get my first taste of tobacco, is with this pipe. This is where I make my first, this is how I shake hands with a blend of tobacco, is with this pipe. When I make my acquaintance with a new tobacco, it's with this pipe. And that has a very special meaning to me. The fact that anytime I smoke a new tobacco, it's out of this pipe. That's something special. Um, you know that that and there's never any ghosting. I clean this pipe every time, between every smoke. Clean it out with a napkin and my finger, and then I run a pipe cleaner through it. I just put a napkin and then stick my finger down in it and twist that bad boy. And I do it with each finger because each finger is thicker, and it grinds. Or the napkin scrapes all that carbon off, so you get it's like shiny black meerschaum. Once it's broken in, there's no carbon to it at all. It's just shiny black meerschaum. So you get no flavor additives to the smoke, and that's why I use it as a first impression smoker. And not only that, but it is just my best smoking. Uh, these K Woody meerschaums with 4-hole stinger are the best smoking meerschaums that I've smoked personally. Um, but they really are. They are the best smoking meerschaums. I have a few meerschaums, and the reason being is they're drinkless. They're drinkless. You don't have to worry about getting anything in your mouth, which is hated in my mind. That's the despised part of smoking. But anyway, sorry, I'm droning on a little bit here, but I wanted to do a first impression of Stirling Flake, and I've just gotten a belly full of peanut butter Girl Scout cookies and a glass of milk, so I'm feeling it was pretty rich, so I'm feeling like following it up with something Nick heavy, Nick rich, nicotine rich, vitamin N rich. Um, just feeling that way after eating about a row or two, or no, it was about a row and a half of those peanut butter cookies. Anyway, ah, very. I like that I can look at my watch and see exactly what you guys see, but it used to have the paper used to have markings on it, and so did the sticker. Used to have a leaf. Used to have a leaf imprinted on the sticker. But anyway, now they've changed that. So what you end up with is some beautiful, here we go, let me turn this bad boy on. So what you end up with is some absolutely gorgeous tobaccos. Some gorgeous looking flakes. I mean, those are like Stonehaven quality flakes right there. And this is pretty, ooh, dang, that's strong. That's pretty strong smelling. These are usually pretty uniform. I mean, that's a beautiful flake right there. That's just, I mean, it's gorgeous to me, to smoke tobacco that comes like that. I mean, you could write on it with a marker. You know, it's so finely done. I'm sure it's fresh as all get out too. But man, it's got a, I'm almost getting like a dark fired scent out of here. I don't know what it entails. Says, I know nothing about this tobacco, other than it's quite potent, and it smells that way. It reminds me of Lakeland Dark by Galwith, Samuel Galwith, but not quite as dark. I mean, it's not quite as straight, bold, and pure. There's, quite a decent bit of Virginia in there, but it looks like it's got some kind of dark fired or something to make it, because it's a rather dark flake. That's not a very light flake at all. But then again, I don't know and you can just see, once I look at the cross section of it, you can just see the oils, the juices of the tobacco leaf. You really can. You can see the juices, the oiliness of that tobacco. I think it's crazy how what happens to tobacco over when they process it. I mean, that really is. There's truly an oil and extract to that. I mean, I can feel it on my fingertips when I rub the cross section of the flake. It's just like, it's a tobacco oil. And we've got our handy dandy piece of paper here to rub it out on. And it looks to me like it's just about ready to smoke. It felt like it anyway. In hand, it felt like it. The flakes do. Although I feel like sometimes the juices or the oils from my fingers, especially if they're my hands are kind of sweaty, kind of add a bit of moisture to the tobacco, which delays its drying time, or it's drier when I open the tin than it is when I rub it out because of my own hand moisture. I don't know if you guys notice that, but it seems that way, although it may be just my imagination. But I swear that it's got to have some kind of dark fired in it. I mean, it's just, and I usually kind of steer clear of these blends. I didn't know that it was, I thought it was like a super heavy, like a Stonehaven or something like that. And that's, I thought it was like maybe like Irish flake, and that's where they get the nicotine from, was the burleys. But apparently it's like a dark fired deal here. I mean, it's quite dark fired, and I'm only going to do one flake. I'm not going to push it just in case I don't like it, because the smell has kind of got me a little cautious here whether or not I'm going to like it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish or let this dry for a couple minutes. It probably needs a minute or two, and then go ahead and pack it in the meerschaum, and I will be right back. So without further ado. So I let it dry for a minute or two, and then I hadn't packed a bowl. It just like I thought, it has that dark fired flavor to it. I'm just not, I really am not a huge fan of the dark fired. I kind of shy away from it. Ever since I smoked that Lakeland Dark, I haven't been a big fan. This seems okay though. Like palatable. I mean, like I can finish the bowl at least. It does have a spiciness to it, but in its own way. You know, campfirey. Hickory smoke or something like that. Some kind of almost taste how if you ever threw green wood, thrown green oak, like let's say laurel or live oak, throw some green oak into a wet oak that's fresh into a fire. It almost tastes like what that smells like to me. Not in the worst way. Not in a way that's off-putting like when you throw green wood into a fire. It really is an off-putting smell, but the flavor isn't so off-putting. The flavor I'm getting just kind of reminds me of that. Just kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I don't know why. Well, I imagine it's from the firing process, but I'm almost positive this has dark fired Kentucky. It's got a decent. I feel like it's got a pretty decent bit of nicotine, just already from smoking just a couple minutes of smoking. Hmm. Smooth, very smooth. Kind of a deep, dark flavor. Slight pungency. I mean, if you puff on it for a second and get it going and then do the retrohale, slight pungency to it. Doesn't have really much for sweetness. It's satisfying how a cigarette is satisfying. Because there is no sweetness to a cigarette. But somehow it's very satisfying. And this kind of has that same satisfaction to it. The earthiness of the flavor. The dark earthiness. It's not a bright grassy, it's a dark earthy. Maybe a little grass in there too from the Virginias. To be honest, I'm not a big connoisseur on the dark fired Kentucky. I typically steer clear of blends that have it in there, although I have had a few good, decent experiences. But that Lakeland Dark, yeah, I just wasn't into it. Kind of put me off for a while. This is nice though. It's very smooth. It's a very well put together flake. I think well balanced, well blended. Definitely pretty nick heavy. Pretty. There's a decent bit of nicotine. I kind of feel it. Kind of lightheaded feeling, I would say, that you kind of get from it. Typically, I don't get that way with tobacco. But there are a few blends that'll do it. I suppose this being one of them because this is supposed to be a nick heavy blend. But I'm going to go ahead and smoke this down and get down to the bottom here, the nitty gritty, and then I'll go ahead and come back with the conclusion and the finishing bit. So I'm right down here towards the nitty gritty on this guy. Really just seems like Marlin Flake's big brother. Got more nicotine for sure. And there's that bold, that dark-fired Kentucky presence. Which at first it was a little strong for me, the bold Kentucky. But as the bowl progressed, it kind of mellowed out a little bit, and this is a really enjoyable smoke. You know, a nice after dinner smoke or something I do, you know, once it I wouldn't do this twice a day, you know, it's just a little too rich for that. Really nice smoke though. I was just watching the Coral Springs shooting at that school down here in Florida while I was smoking it, and terrible shooting, but I was enjoying the smoke while I was reading it. The dark fired's there, but it's mellowed out and kind of melded with the Virginias, I guess. So it's, I almost want to say it has a little bit more, has like a slight sweetness to it now. At first I didn't think I was going to like it either, that first few puffs. I know that dark fire, sometimes it can be off-putting, but as I continued to smoke and just kind of push through it, it's really become a really nice, satisfying smoke. One that really hits the spot, for sure. For sure, and I would recommend it. I mean, like you seen the flakes, they were excellent presentation. And, you know, it's almost like the Rattrays and the McConnells, it's almost like a whole family of flakes. They all have their own little differences, you know. The Rattrays seem to have Cavendish in a lot of the flakes that they do, whereas McConnell's tends to use a Perique in most of their flakes, as well as dark-fired Kentucky, which they both use dark-fired Kentucky, but it's like one uses Cavendish and McConnell's uses Perique, seems like, so. But they're all made by the same company, of course. They all have an outstanding presentation. Really fine tobacco, smooth. Got a good satisfying earthy flavor. And I don't know if it's just me, but The dark fired Kentucky, as you get down towards the end of a bowl with a tobacco that has some in it, like the folded flake was this way, gets almost slightly floral. The dark fired Kentucky, and I actually like it. It's quite creamy. I don't know if everybody else would call it a floral taste, but it comes off kind of flowery to me. Not like Lakeland or anything. Almost just like a nice, sweet, flowery, earthy smoke. Would I buy it again? Yes, and I did buy a second tin, thankfully. And I'll keep it stashed away. I'd like to see what this stuff does aged. Really nice tobacco, though. It's got a nice nick hit. And at certain times, that's what I really want. Is a good punch of nicotine. And at first it was a bit too much, but I don't know, I guess I kind of got a little acclimated to it. It's mellowed out a little. Or I may have been puffing too fast. And if you sip it, you get even more flavor. This nice tanginess. Like there's some red Virginias in there. With a slight hint of that Kentucky floralness. And it all kind of comes together. It comes off as kind of an earthy flavor, though. Really nice tobacco. And I've come to the conclusion that a lot of these Rattray blends are top quality blends. I haven't tried all of them because there's like 30. But the ones that I have tried so far I've been extremely impressed with. Anything from Coalhouse and Kopf. The McConnells, the Rattrays, it's all good stuff. Read the descriptions and figure out what you like, and then, read descriptions, read reviews, find which ones you think would suit you or which ones sound interesting. That's what I've been doing with the Glen Piper and Scottish Cake, all these different ones I haven't tried. They seem interesting to me, so I purchase them. I do a first impression. I figure out what I like. It's a lot of fun, too. It really is. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish it off here. Let you guys go. I hope you enjoyed the first impression. I enjoyed making it. And until next time, guys, Treetop Piper over and out.